Michael, thank you so much for being with us. So we just heard from Pence's former chief of staff there, but let's talk about the way the former vice president launched his campaign. He opted for that 3-minute video, didn't opt for a social media platform announcement. He did it early in the day. What do you think was some of the strategy behind this rollout?
Well, Nichole, I think we're seeing a really intentional rollout here from Mike Pence. As you mentioned, we started with that 3-minute video this morning, which could sort of maybe be seen as like a soft launch. And then we saw him go ahead and speak to supporters during the day today in Iowa. And tonight he's going to be sitting for a CNN town hall where he's actually going to be taking questions from voters. So he sort of gets to, do all three things: give an eye into what he wants his campaign to look like, a little bit about him, how he wants to present himself as a candidate, then sort of speak to supporters, rile up his supporters, and then take questions from voters and be able to speak directly to their concerns. So I think we're seeing a really intentional rollout there. And as you saw Mark Short mention, he specifically did this in Iowa. Of course, Iowa is the first in the nation state for Republicans. It's a crucial state for Republicans that can really, jumpstart a campaign and set the tone for the rest of the primaries in the election year to come. So I think that everything about today's launch is very intentional for Mike Pence, someone who has been publicly flirting with the idea of a presidential campaign for a while and finally brought it out the gate today.
He did. And Michael, really, his biggest task may be separating himself from his former running mate. Obviously, we heard him today start to take some shots at the former president, President Trump. But, how does Pence separate himself without alienating himself from the base?
Well, I think this is a question of what does the Republican Party currently look like and what is the makeup of the Republican Party? Look, there are some supporters that are squarely behind former President Trump who truly believe that Mike Pence had an ability to overturn the election results on January 6th, which of course was not true. Mike Pence has said that. Election analysts and experts have said that. But when you get down to Mike Pence, I think what we'll be seeing from him is an attempt to return to the normalcy of conservative politics. Mike Pence is a conservative Republican, specifically when it comes to foreign policy, trade, entitlement reform, abortion, as we saw Mark Short mention earlier. So I think that one way we can see him really speak to conservative voters, in addition to drawing a contrast with Trump on things like January 6th and other things like that. But aside from the Trump factor, I think we'll likely see Mike Pence push his conservative bona fides a lot, because that can resonate a lot with the Republican primary voter, and specifically somebody who maybe doesn't want the noise that former President Trump and the baggage that former President Trump comes with, but wants to return to those conservative ideals.
Well, Michael, as you mentioned, pushing that conservative bona fides right there, he's always made religion, a fundamental part of his politics. Does Pence have an advantage when it comes to the rest of the GOP candidates currently in the field?
In terms of an advantage, I think time will only tell, and we'll first have to see how the voters take to his candidacy, to those policy perspectives. He has been polling pretty low in the single digits in some polls. But again, now that he's officially a candidate and will start to present himself as a candidate, that could change. But I mean, listen, this election, this primary specifically, is all going to be about how can these Republican candidates draw a contrast with one another and speak to the voters and court the voters. Now, Mike Pence comes in here as a unique position. As you mentioned, he has always made religion a key part of his persona. He mentioned God a number of times in that 3-minute video. And I think that we're likely going to see abortion be a central topic in this 2024 election. Obviously, it played a central role in the 2022 midterm elections. That was right after the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade. I think we'll still see a residual effect from that decision in the 2024 election. Mike Pence has been very outward and very upfront about his views on abortion. He has endorsed a federal abortion ban. He has been very clear about that. It's been his track record for a while. So I think that's one way we may see Mike Pence try to court some of those evangelical voters, specifically in Iowa, is touching on these issues that, again, have a link back to his to his religious background.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.